Scaling a digital agency almost always means one thing: new hires. These hires can make or break your agency. A bad hire is often an expensive mistake, yet many agencies struggle with the hiring process. So how can we get this important facet of scaling an agency right? Here's how the agencies we spoke with ensure they hire the right people for the right agency seats. Filtering out bad hires ASAP is critical. A favorite way to do so for agencies is by giving the candidates a test project. These functional tests allow both sides to assess the mutual fit.
The biggest thing we do to filter out bad agency hires is we make projects happen for hires. From executive assistants to our SEO specialist team, we require them to take a small project and do something with it. Sometimes the project is paid, sometimes the project is not paid. But by doing the project, it allows us to understand two things. Number one, what is their desire for the role? They have to want the role, and they have to want to do some work to get the role. And if they're not willing to do some work on the interview, it gives us a good indication that they're probably not willing to do the work in real life. Additionally, if they're going to take that interview project and do it very poorly or just be very surface level, we know that that's probably going to happen as well in the actual job itself. Once that project is done, that allows us to filter that out. The second thing we do to help us not hire bad people is we're going to be very keen on attention to detail. Detail is very key with websites, from DNS codes to coding to SEO and how you're inputting things, even from an executive assistant side of things, all the way through. And so we allow the project as a way to showcase their work, but we also are very keen on how they do it, how they submit it, their formatting, and what their attention to details are. So we'll even put in on the job description a place that says, hey, I actually read all these instructions. I'll put in there and say to use that in the subject line, and it filters out those who can follow instructions and those who cannot.
Your testing methodology shouldn't be some Frankenstein monster of tips you pulled from a book. It has to be cohesive and relevant to your agency, not just a copycat of someone else's. The idea is that by doing this, you can create a hiring process that attracts the right candidates and screens out the wrong ones. Here's another example of a solid process in action.
So there's a bunch of metrics that we look at, and Ken, our CGO, actually, he has a matrix that he's essentially built for hiring, and that's essentially quantifies every question that we ask in an interview process. That's a big part of it, is just understanding, do they have the skill set needed to do the job? And then it's just a question of, do they fit the culture of the team? That's more just by gut feel, when we interview folks, and we go through multiple interview phases so that, the different owners, because the owners amongst the ownership team, we definitely have our own, vibe that we bring to the company. And so it gives us the opportunity to obviously see if that person would fit in with the existing team. And then we also typically have them meet the team before they join the team. I would say the number one way to filter out people that just aren't good fits is through the actual skills assessment. We take that really seriously. We didn't used to, and it hurt us. We made some not great hires in the past. And so we've recognized that was something we had to change. And then the other thing that we did was we actually built out what we call scorecards. So everybody on our team, every role has a scorecard. And that's essentially it's kind of like a job description, more or less, but it's responsibilities that everybody in the team has on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis for their role that's specific to that role. And it's just a good way for us to make sure that we're all holding ourselves accountable to the things that we're supposed to be doing.
However, candidate fit extends beyond processes and metrics. Sometimes there are the subjective intangibles like commitment and motivation. But how do you test for those intangibles? We've heard of agencies that like to make an assessment of those intangibles by screening the candidate's tone and body language during the hiring process, while others depend on a longer interview process itself to screen for it.
The main thing that we do to filter out bad hires from experience is just having them go through more hoops so that at the end of the line, we're getting the people that are most committed and dedicated and have the desire to want to work with us. And also just pass through, various interviews. So walking through the details of that, originally the job posting goes out and someone applies, and they instantly get the first step of sending a video ask that we use to kind of just gauge their personality, their energy and their kind of responsiveness on a camera, since a lot of our team, they work one-on-one with their clients. So they got to get through the video ask. And then they get an interview with our operations manager. and then one other person on our team. And then if they pass all of that, then I kind of do the final interview. And at that point, everyone I've talked to ever that's made it through this new process has just been a slam dunk. So that's kind of our process to make sure that people we're bringing onto our team, they're high quality, they're committed, they're a good fit culturally, and it's just a win-win.
Since a candidate will work with your team once hired, it's becoming more common to get the broader team members involved in the hiring process. Introducing the candidate to other employees and seeing how they interact when speaking with each other is a good tactic to include in the screening process. When you really boil it down, intangibles can probably be summarized with one word: attitude. And oftentimes the best agencies will actually put attitude ahead of skill set when hiring. They target desired attributes that embody the attitude they need on the team.
The top priorities for us to look for are: how driven are they? How much are they as a self-starter? What kind of confidence do they carry? What is it that they want to contribute? And honestly, we're interested to find out what are their personal and professional goals in life. From there, we can figure out how to teach you and bring you up to speed. But rather than just attitude, I think that there is a parallel along that we call them attributes. Right? In life, there are skills and there are attributes. And skills are things that can be learned over time. And anything that needs to be learned, we can teach those things. But attributes, those are who you are, the habits you've created, the kind of person you are. And so we're looking for someone who has the right attributes and not always the right skills. So we are definitely looking for someone who has the right attitude, the right drive, who wants to succeed and win over what they know.
You also need to align your hiring practices with your company vision. And more importantly, you should screen for core values that you would like to see in all of your employees.
I'm going to align attitude with culture and core values. We have some core values at Rotate Digital that we stand strong and firm in. Part of that is ownership and accountability. The other part is that they got to be driven to win. That is going to be the biggest thing that we're trying to look at when it comes to our interview process, which is why we put in some attention to detail on our applications, while we put in project opportunities in our interview processes, because we want to see how much they want it. We want to see how much they own it. We want to see how much they can serve, right? It is a sacrifice of time sometimes. And so one of our core values is that you're willing to serve others. And sometimes that means a sacrifice. So if they're willing to do that in an interview process, they're more than likely able to do that in the real world in the job that they get.
Once you make the jump and decide to onboard a candidate, your work isn't done just yet. You now have to make sure that the new hires are actually a good fit. Here's a good tip. Don't hire multiple people for a team at once. Bring them in one at a time so you can assess impact on the numbers they have to move.
This is one of my favorite things to talk about because it's something I'm always learning and growing in. But we follow a mind methodology process, which really ultimately comes down to a objective-based or outcome-based responsibilities and some core KPIs that show and allow the person to win in the role. For instance, if you hire someone for the agency for a marketing role, you could have the most important number that they're going to show to win is SQLs, right? Or in the SEO industry, or in that role, you can have a most important number that they're following that you believe is their most important number to show the success. There are always other KPIs, but by having this core number, it allows not only the person who's in the role to know that they're winning in the role, but it allows me and the manager to understand that they are winning as well.
However, KPIs aren't always enough, especially in the initial days when they're still going through some onboarding and training. This is the time to monitor their engagement levels with your project management process.
We can gauge if our new hire is working out well within the first 3 months. We've got like a probation period for 3 months where they know like we can part ways for whatever reason. So we know if they are working out well by one, if they're completing tasks on time, asking good questions, just kind of that initial introduction to the business. We use ClickUp, so we have a really good idea if someone's doing the actual work. And then just gauging their attitude based on how they interact with us in meetings. They have weekly check-ins with our operations manager. And also we just encourage all our team members to ask for help, ask questions. And so we can kind of just pull all this out in the first 3 months. But really, I think you can identify and be confident in a great hire within the first month, just by, again, how they're engaging with your team, the questions that they're asking, how well they're performing the tasks, how timely they're performing the tasks, and getting through training. So kind of just performing the role while kind of just gauging their interactions with their manager, with our team.
The final thing to remember is to track how your new hires are doing. In many agencies, it's normal to create a quarterly form that asks 4 questions. What are you doing that feels good? What feels like a lot of work for you? Where do you want to go with your career? And what are the things you feel we should get off your plate?
Look, nobody is perfect, and we get that. But it's really important. We don't like to be micromanagers. We're not trying to oversee every nitpicky little detail. In fact, one of the things that we have discovered and we've found that we like is we can give most people the end result, the goal, the thing that we want them to accomplish, and they get kind of creative in how it is that they go about making that happen. So in the first week of their employment, we give them a few assignments. There's usually some basic trainings to go through, and depending on how fast they're working on that and their drive to get those things done are really determined by what kinds of questions they're asking. It's kind of designed that way. If you understand all of it and you just kind of breeze through it with no questions at the end, that's usually a little bit of an orange flag for us. We also look and see how do they get along with the rest of our team. Most of our team is in office. You know, are they just a talker? Do they like to socialize, or do they have a good balance with getting their work done and making sure that they're friendly and helpful to other people? We want to kind of monitor and see what kind of questions not only they're asking the managers or their supervisors, but other people, because everybody in our company is so willing to help. We give them 60-day and 90-day reviews. Often for the first 90 days, depending on their position, there may be daily or weekly one-on-ones for just a few minutes. And we usually figure out from there how well they work out. You know, usually at that point, within 90 days, someone has settled into their role a little bit, and we can see what their long-term desire to be driven and to learn and what that looks like.
While no one is perfect and no hiring process is perfect either, there are ways to avoid expensive hiring mistakes with consistent and purposeful processes. Now we bounce back to you. How do you screen out bad hires? Let us know down in the comments. And of course, if you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing so that we can continue to grow together. Until next time, thanks for watching.